Hey everyone, today I'm going to teach you the most important skill in Crokinole, shooting open 20s. If you haven't seen my video on shooting technique, please click this link because having a good shooting technique is a cornerstone to a good open 20. Okay, so let's get into the tips. So the first tip that I want to give is a little bit counterintuitive. Now, generally when you square up to shoot at a Crokinole board, you would think, well, I want to shoot right up the middle. But when shooting an open 20, I found something that really helps is if I lean a little bit to my shooting hand, okay? So if you're left-handed, you go a little bit to the left. If you're right-handed, you go a little bit to the right. So this would be the center, okay? But I think if you move just a little bit to the right, it helps you line up your shoulder with the disc, with the target, okay? Otherwise, if you're right in the middle, then you have to like bend your elbow in this kind of awkward way, and this causes a little bit of inconsistency in the shot. Another tip actually requires you to know a little bit about Crokinole discs. So there are some Crokinole discs that actually have one spinning side and then one side that doesn't spin. So it's actually just a little bit flatter. It'll spin a little bit just based on the fact that there's low friction on the board, but there's one side that's clearly the spinny side, okay? So generally speaking, if you can identify which side this is on the disc, we want to actually flip that over. Okay, so I don't want at any point my disc to start spinning like crazy when I'm playing Crokinole. I want as little variation as I can. I've also found that the spinny side of discs is always stickier. Okay, that's just my own experience, but that's just what I found. Okay, another tip is wax. If you notice, I actually have some wax in the ditch here. So this wax is Capo shuffleboard wax. In North America, this is what we use in order to speed up the board a little bit. However, we don't actually put it right on the board. We put it in the ditch here, and we only want a very small amount of it, okay? And in fact, this is actually probably too much. So the way that we're gonna wax our disc for a 20 shot is we want to find like a very thin layer. So we want to push it over so we can just get like a little bit, just like this. And then we're going to take our disc, we're going to rub it in one direction. Okay, so I'm going to rub it this way. Okay, and then after every time we do this, we're going to look at the disc. Okay, and I actually didn't get much wax on this disc at all. Okay, so if I had shot this would have been a total disaster, okay? So what I would do in a tournament scenario is I would just do this over and over again, okay? So I will wax and I will look, okay? Still not very good. So I'd tap it off, I'd wax, and I would look. That's a lot better. Keep in mind that I will do this over and over and over again until my opponent falls asleep, because I would rather stay up all night waxing my disc than come up short on a 20 shot because I didn't wax my disc. Another incredibly important tip when you're shooting 20s or when you're practicing 20 shooting is to make sure that you're not shooting the same disc over and over again. And the reason for this is that even though in Crokinole we have very high quality parts and we've worked many years to refine them, there still is some variation both in the boards and in the discs, okay? So in order to get rid of the variation in the discs, one tool that we have is the wax, which really helps. But if we want to actually practice getting good at 20s, I wouldn't sit here shooting the same disc over and over again like this, okay? I wouldn't want to do this because this just calibrates my hand to this single disc, okay? So one thing I would do is make sure that you're shooting a different disc. So maybe shoot the blue one now, then when you've sunk that one, the next shot it should be a pink one, or, you know, and this is so that we don't get our finger too accustomed to a single disc. I know it sounds a little bit crazy at first, but as you become a better 20 shooter, you will notice that there are certain discs that you are much more accurate with. Another tip for practicing your 20s is don't shoot consecutive 20s. Okay, so what I mean by that is we want to kind of emulate an actual game scenario. In a real game, you're not just sitting there shooting 20s over and over again, right? Oftentimes you'll shoot a 20 and then you'll have another shot. So let's say then you got to go across the board and then your next shot has to be a 20. Okay, and one thing you'll notice is that when you're not shooting consecutive 20s, your accuracy is actually way lower, like way lower. I think top level players in Crokinole shoot probably about 80% if you're just shooting 20 after 20, but if you're shooting cold, I would say it's closer to 50 or 60%. It's a pretty big difference. Now here's more of a general tip. I've always been a fan of basketball, and when you watch people in basketball shoot free throws, every single shot that they shoot is exactly the same, okay? And I think that we should adopt a very similar principle when we're playing Crokinole. So every single time I line up for an open 20, I want to have the exact same routine. I want to pick up my disc from wherever it is. I want to wax it lightly. I want to check whether or not my wax is adequate. Okay, it's adequate. Now I set the disc down just a little bit to the right. I pull my finger back and I shoot. Okay, and I want to do this the exact same way every single time. And I think it's important to develop a bit of a routine when you're shooting open 20s. Because although a lot of the variables aren't necessarily the same, like not all boards are the same, not all discs are the same, the most that you can do is have as little variation in your actual shooting technique, okay? Okay, everyone, that's it for this video. If you want to see more content, please do subscribe and like the video and leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see in the future, okay? Peace.